I'm a huge fan of Italian horror director Dario Argento. I discovered him through Suspiria, which is the most common film people know from him. When it first hit Magnum Video back in like 1989 or so, when I saw it, it was like the Coming Soon magazine, my local video galaxy used to have stacks of them that you could take out for free. And it was really kind of mostly a trade magazine, but they would have full page ads for upcoming titles, which for me as a kid at the time was like, oh, cool, it's like a mini poster. And they had one for Suspiria, which I'd never heard of. And the tagline was something like, the only thing more shocking than the first 90 minutes of this film are the last 10. And I was like, what? What's this? I've never heard of this. And I rented it and I loved it. And one by one, I was able to rent all of these horribly pan and scan versions of Argento films and just really seriously get into his stuff. I'm a fan up to a point of his films. I always, one of those things where I like Dark Glasses quite a bit, actually. But you always kind of wish they would just do one more great one. But anyway, I'm not talking about his new movies. I'm talking about a new documentary called Dario Argento Panico from 2023, which is really good. Currently, the only way to see this is streaming on Shudder or AMC Plus. If you have AMC Plus, it's in there. And it's so well made. Now, I've seen documentaries about Argento. I've got all the Blu-rays and the DVDs, which were loaded with featurettes and things like that. So I know a lot of the behind the scenes. I know a lot of the stories. And I've seen some behind the scenes footage. There was Michele Soavi put out a really fun documentary somewhere in the mid 80s called Dario Argento's World of Horror. And that had a ton of behind the scenes footage of the making of, I think, Phenomenon, and a little bit of Suspiria and a little bit of Demons and things like that. And here and there I'd seen behind the scenes stuff. Somehow Dario Argento Panico manages to interview people I've never seen on camera before talking about him, talking about things I've never seen talked about, extensive interviews with Argento himself, talking about his life and his process and all that. The framing narrative for this is that he has gone to a hotel, some kind of luxury remote hotel in Italy, to write a script for his next film. And it's him talking about, like, he's always gone off to a hotel somewhere and been alone to write a script, but he doesn't like this hotel. And he's kind of a cranky old man in some ways. And it's him talking about his life and his work and all that. But then you have people from his life. You have his daughters. You have his first wife. You have various collaborators. You have Luigi Cozzi, who I was honored to meet when I was in Rome recently. He runs Profondo Rosso, which is the store that is basically dedicated to Argento and Italian horror in Rome. And it's run by the man who gave us Star Crash, among other things, and the Lou Ferrigno Hercules. And he like literally sits there at the register and runs it. And he's in it, and all kinds of like luminaries of Italian horror and things. And tons of clips, all looking fabulous. Tons of rare clips of things that Argento did. TV shows that Argento hosted, Italian anthology shows, older interviews with Argento. What blew my mind was Italian TV footage, black and white, on the set, behind the scenes, shooting Bird with the Crystal Plumage. I'm like, where did this come from? Of all the, I sort of was laughing out loud. I'm like, all of the Blu-rays and DVDs I have bought of these films, repeated new upgrades and additions. How have I never seen this? So this, if you're a fan of Argento, this is a must. If you're curious, who is this Dario Argento guy? This is a good place to start. It's really well shot. At some point, we entered into a world where documentaries just look great. Documentary about anything now. I think it's the tools have been democratized and cheapified enough that anybody can shoot something that looks good. It does take talent, but the cameras do, 50% or 40% of the heavy lifting for you now. And so it looks great. The clips all look great. I didn't want it to end, and I cannot wait. It's going to be a travesty if this thing is not released on physical media, because I want this on my shelf next to all, and I do have them lined up that way, next to all my other Argento films, because I want to be able to revisit this. The only other Argento documentary I remember, I believe there is one called Dario Argento Master of Horror, or Dario Argento An Eye for Horror, that was done, I think, somewhere in the 90s, 2000s, which I don't remember at all. I just remember the original World of Horror because I still have the tape, and this. And I would not say that this necessarily replaces that other one, but boy, is this good. Available streaming, and I'm really hoping for a Blu-ray. Maybe someday this will be like a special extra disc and yet the 400th re-release of Suspiria. Dario Argento Panico.